Queens.
Yeah, see what,
Val understands me.
see, as to Roland Stewart, it's on here. It's just not on here, it's here and not here. It's the same address.
Is it on the petition?
No, it's the same thing on the petition. It's on, but not on. It's on for one office and one not.
So then the question becomes, is the petition prima facie defect?
That's the question.
Well, that's my question. What's the answer?
Statute says they're supposed to put the complete residence address of the candidate. It's supposed to appear on the petition.
Or what's a residence as opposed to a mailing address? That's a good question.
Like the Bronx DA.
The case law requires you to be able to make a postal delivery. We've been advised by the Postal Service that, and we've actually had, when we don't have a zip code, they will not make a delivery. So I think that, to me, is the determining factor. Because I think, Commissioner, you have a point with respect to apartments. That's something depending on how diligent a postal worker is too. My apartment building, my name is on my mailbox. It's also on the inside, so when they pull it down,
Right, no.
they should be able to find it.
Steve Richmond, Coney Island. I'll bet you that mail gets to you.
No, I don't think so. But that's the reason
Does
we.
that go to the Cyclone Stadium for them? Is that?
Yes, it does. They know he's coming by for a hot dog sooner or later.
Next block, maybe. Commissioners, that's the question we've always had, and as you know, we've raised this in the past when we've considered the rules. Do we want to establish a definition for
But
it?
here's the problem. The problem is that I don't think that the two of us should be the ones that establish a definition, and the issues are,
Well, that's where I was coming at.
right, but the issues are separate and apart. And the first issue is whether or not there is a right to cure the cover sheet, or even if it's possible to cure the cover sheet. And I think that gets us right back to the issue of whether or not the petition is a prima facie defect.
The cover sheet mirrors the petition, so if there's a defect.
I already said that. And you repeat what I said. You sound very smart.
Yes, sir.
Then you didn't repeat the question I asked, which is, it gets right back to the issue of whether the petition is,
For, what we could do is we could give them the right to
Come to the full hearing.
correct this and then deal with the petition
As a prima
as a either prima facie or let somebody argue it.
That would be the full board, they would get the
But then the
opportunity,
full board would then have the opportunity to rule on it.
but they would get the 3-day cure to try to at least correct the cover sheet, so if that, you accept the petition afterwards, the cover sheet then is conforming, and then at least if the cover sheet is corrected with a zip code, anyone who wanted to gain the information, whether it's for litigation or any
so
other purpose.
put it on the agenda for next Tuesday for the full board.
Oh, but without giving notice to the candidates?
Give notice.
Normally we would do that in the prima facie hearing, or
What are they gonna do, sue us? They're gonna sue us anyway. Do you wanna do it right, or do you wanna do it fast?
do it right by giving the regular prima facie notice and have them come in on the week of the 28th. Click that, and then give a cover sheet defect notice, to see if they
The
correct.
question is whether or not there's a defect. Am I-
Your cover sheet rule says that on the cover sheet, it's supposed to have the complete residence address. I don't think there's ever been a question.
You can't amend the petition. Do we agree on that?
The only way you have amended the petition in the past is with
Excuse me,
a printer's
yes
letter.
or no?
You have treated a petition that is defective with a printer's letter timely filed before the file end of the petition period as being corrected.
Okay, so that's our exception to whether or not you can amend the petition.
Yes.
Okay, that answers the question.
May I,
No, you may not. I'm
Marble
gonna answer that
Hill,
question.
it's New York, but has a Bronx zip code.
What was the question I was gonna ask?
No, I wanted to do a teeny example, Marble Hill is
We
New York
understand.
County,
We know.
but it's a Bronx zip code.
I understand.
And the DA of the Bronx lives in what county?
He lives half in the Bronx and half in Westchester. We know that.
Commissioner, as I said, in terms of the cover sheet, your
Do
rule
me a
is.
favor, I can't tell Mr. Flax to shut up, but I can tell you to shut up. So now we're back to my question. My question is, since we now know that there's only one exception to the rule that petitions are not amendable, we need a determination or a definition on what is the full address. And I'm not prepared for the two of us sitting here to create that definition. I don't know if Commissioner Lane is.
See, my view is that on the cover sheet, it says the residence address, not the mailing address.
Right. I agree.
So the residence address doesn't need a zip code.
Except your rule says the name and the complete residence address of each candidate.
Residence address,
Not
not
mailing
mailing address. But what I would propose to do is, if we were to send out the cure notice to them on the cover sheet,
Not to the mailing address, but to the residence
Residence.
address.
then might give them the opportunity to do a printer's letter or come up with something else that might be able to.
Well, but then the problem is that there's a discrepancy between the definitions that we use, and maybe we should work on our definitions
Right.
such that we should tie together residence and mailing more closely, and maybe, what does the statute say?
In the statute, you're supposed to put the place of residence and also your post office address if not identical. That's the statute.
So you're supposed to use both?
Well,
No,
no,
if-
if your post office address is not identical to your residence address.
So the post office address is superseded?
Right.
I would think
Control
that's
it.
the check.
Yes, I
That would
would think
require a
so.
zip
So
code.
then we need the zip code.
And we
Okay.
use zip code, so there is a prima facie defect.
Except zip codes are now required by the post office for other than first, except for other than first-class mail. The post office does not require zip codes itself.
How do you,
On first
on what do you
class mail.
base that?
That's their own rules and regulations, you can
Excuse me,
check it
we-
out.
That's my question, how can I check
They
that
will
out?
only require a zip code if you get a discount on the mail.
Mr.
First-class
Savino
mail.
sitting behind you, staring at your back, why don't you put him to work?
Pardon me?
All right, based on that statutory interpretation, I think we need the zip code.
I think you're right, I think the statute's.
But I think it should go on the prima facie calendar
petition.
for the petition, and we should send a cure notification on the,
The cover
The
sheet
cover
does
sheet.
not have the complete address, and that it's missing the zip code.
Hold on. Jerry
That's
Kane
giving-
wouldn't like that.
And Commissioners, then let me.
God rest his soul.
Then, if you will, let me just amend that to add a prima facie referral to the signed vote. No zip code indicated on cover sheet.
I miss Jerry, he was a good guy.
he was the best poll site locator
He was
going.
just a good guy. When you weren't talking about elections, he was just a nice guy. And by the way, he was more fun when you weren't talking about elections. Elections, he was very
Want the
boring.
zip code, but remember, you said there's a rational basis for it. So were colors of petitions. The appellate division said there's a good reason in New York City why you have different colored paper with different parties, and they did away with that.
We'll be putting that, so we'll be referring to the full board as a prima facie and no zip code on the petition. We'll give them the cured letter for the cover sheet tonight. And as you recommend, typical. That's it, number one? Yes.
State
That's it, thank you,
election law
Commissioners.
doesn't require.
Move to adjourn? All in favor?
All right, goodbye.